And we're live.
Are we live? Are we on? We're going to do this. I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes to let everyone who wants to join us join us. Are we live? Are we on? Please look around our homes.
We're live.
While we wait, I'll give them another 30 seconds maybe. All right. 10 seconds, 9, 8. All right. Hi there. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Beth Spotswood, Alta's digital editor, and I'm delighted to introduce you to our first ever Alta Asks Live. This is a digital version of the bookstore discussions we usually host throughout the state. This conversation is going to last about 30 minutes, so if you've got to step away, don't worry. We're recording this and we will publish the video to our website, altaonline.com. Today's guest is journalist and author Bonnie Tsui, a longtime contributor to the New York Times, California Sunday Magazine, and Alta. Bonnie is here to discuss her brand new book, Why We Swim, and she's going to discuss that book with Heather Scott Partington, writer, teacher, and critic. Heather's work has appeared in the New York Times Review of Books, the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, and of course, Alta. We are honored to have them both as we kick off our first ever Alta Asks Live. We'll actually be back doing this next week, same time, 12:30, where Heather will discuss books and her Deceit and Other Possibilities with author Vanessa Hua. Right now, though, Bonnie Tsui and Heather, take it away.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, Bonnie.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, Heather.
So I'm so excited to talk about this book, Why We Swim. Bonnie Tsui's Why We Swim is, are we calling it a memoir and essays, or are we calling it a collection of essays? It's everything.
I resist memoir only because I'm a journalist, and maybe there's like a memoir frame around it.
It's deals with Bonnie's own experiences swimming. There's science, there's meditation, there's research. It's wonderful. I enjoyed it so much. So I'm really excited for us to get to talk about it today.
Me too.
So before we get started, just how are you doing during this strange time?
It's a really weird time to be launching a book. I think a lot of writers are feeling that way. You know, this was like big season for books, and I think just the aspect of it being a time where you, after years of just solitary work, that it's usually supposed to be a celebration. You know, you're out in the world, you're interacting, you're talking about the thing that you've been thinking about in your head for so long. And at first it definitely felt sad to kind of realize, as you know, and things keep evolving, and so it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it has been heartening how we have been finding different ways to connect and being creative about it. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, like, for case in point, what we're doing right now with you and Alta, and I'm just really grateful. And so that feels really good. And the response to the book has been pretty great so far. So, knock wood.
Good. Have you been swimming? Have you been able to find ways to make that happen, or is that kind of on hold for right now?
It has been, again, like, it's like whack-a-mole. You know, you're just trying to find the places that are still open and still accessible to you in a safe way. And so far, I've been able to get in the ocean very, very early, like right first light, either at Ocean Beach or down in Pacifica. It's easier at Ocean Beach because it's 4 miles of beach, and it's not this problem of congregating in a parking lot. One parking lot for the whole beach. And so, you know, I'm trying to find little windows when I can, and being outside, walking with my family. The funny thing about being at the beach is that, you know, even though some of the beaches I know in the state have been closed, that because, you know, people have been coming so close together, when I go out so early, actually, it's like I don't see anyone. People are further away from me in the water and on the beach than I'm walking down the street in my neighborhood. So I kind of try to be sensible about getting outside, and then also knowing that it's a balance of things that we're all trying to do right now.
Great. So one of the questions that I was wondering is, what central question kind of guided your research and your writing with this book?
I struggled a lot actually with the structure of the book. I just thought about it for a long time, and before I even ever wrote anything down. And so I started collecting these stories, these intriguing stories about swimmers and survival stories and different characters in the book. People would just kind of, I would tell people that I was thinking about doing a book about swimming, and they would have things to tell me, and so I would just start collecting them. And a few years ago, I realized I had all this great material, but I had no real organizing principle. And then a really smart editor friend of mine said, you have some great stuff here. Why don't you just call it something as simple as Why We Swim? And I kid you not, it was like a religious moment, because everything kind of fell into place, where all of the research that I had been doing, the stories I've been collecting, kind of fell into these 5 different thematic categories. And the first and foremost, of course, is survival, because without, that's why we're doing it. We're doing it to survive the water. And then once you can survive the water through swimming, then swimming can become so much more. And so that's sort of what the progression of the book is about.
Great. I know that you did a lot of research for this book. What things from your research surprised you as you started to delve into different areas?
A lot of the science, I would talk to different researchers and scientists around the human body and how it handles cold water immersion. So that was something that people there's been a lot more research into how our bodies respond to water, specifically cold water. We've known for many hundreds of years that, at least anecdotally, people would write from, Euripides to Byron. People would write about the salutary effects of the water, and particularly ocean immersion, and things that, we talked about the water cure for centuries, but we didn't really know what we were talking about in terms of why that happened. And so the science is only kind of beginning to catch up. But I was really surprised by the research being done in recent years that kind of shows that everything from a physiological standpoint to our psychological responses to seeing water, being in water, looking at water, being around water, so that our bodies will respond to immersion, of course, in various temperatures, and it's very beneficial. But also that even just, and this is pretty timely right now, is that you can feel better. You have a sense of calm. Our set points, our human set points in the brain are really set to the environment. Like, we know this now with the natural environment, and the blue spaces are particularly calming for us. And we know that from just the way the patterns of our brain waves are when in response to seeing water or listening to the ocean or hearing, just being around it is beneficial. And so I was really interested and fascinated by all of these very specific ways in which our bodies and our minds respond to water.
Does that change what your swims are like now? I mean, has that research, does it enter your head as you're swimming? I know that you write about swimming from the time you were really young, and
Right.
It was something that was enjoyable to you. Has that changed your training or your approach, or just even what you're thinking about as you're swimming?
I started to think about a lot more things when I was swimming. So I used to just completely go blank. I would just focus on the laps. I would think about what I was doing with my stroke. And now it's more of a meditative thing. I think I allow my brain to wander, and because I would just start noticing or try to, I would break out of my writing hunch. And then I would head to the pool and I would ask myself while I was writing this book, I would ask myself during the swims, like, what am I thinking about? Like, where is my brain going? And I would, I would ruminate on everything from the feel of the water to the guy in the next lane to how many times does a bird poop in the pool when I'm in it? I just like so many things that you just, and it made me realize that it was freeing to be swimming in the water. And that it allowed me to actually be more creative and make those connections.
And I know in the book you write about some changes to your training that you did. You talked about joining a master's program. Can you just talk about what that is, and so
Sure.
people have an idea?
So the U.S. Master Swimming program is, it's all these club teams, basically for everyone who is not in a college swimming program. So, 18 and up, you can join, and it's basically a swim team for grown-ups, and it's every level. You can swim just practices. You can learn to swim. You can be a relative beginner with swimming, and they will be coaches are there to refine your stroke. Or if you are a former competitor, there's so many meets nationally, regionally, nationally, internationally, and there's just this wonderful community aspect of it. And so I grew up swimming club from when I was 8 to 18, basically. And it was ingrained in me to be swimming with a coach barking at me all the time. And it took me years to get rid of that and allow myself to swim without feeling like I had to always be doing something better or doing sets. And so then for this book, I joined a master's team. I joined a team again for the first time in 20 years. And I thought, do I really want to be swimming with someone yelling at me again? And because I don't like people telling me what to do. And so but in this context, it's really, you realize that you welcome it. You welcome the feedback, and you also welcome the camaraderie of swimming near and with other people. So that's been, I actually really miss my master swimming community so much. And so there are a lot of swimmers who live in my neighborhood. And so some of them will walk by and shout from the sidewalk and say, hi, we'll talk from my front door to the sidewalk. And so I do get a little bit of a fix in that way, but I really miss them. Yeah, it's hard.
You talk about some kind of local people who inspire you, and some people from your research. Your research is definitely full of trailblazers. Are there some favorite stories that you have in the book? Some things that really, some people that you feel like really affected you?
Definitely. Well, locally in San Francisco, I spent a lot of time with Kim Chambers, and she is a world record holding distance swimmer. And so she's I guess what we would call marathon swimming. And so she was the first woman to swim from the Farallones to San Francisco. So for those of you who are not as familiar with the Farallones, it's islands 30 miles outside of San Francisco, out the Golden Gate, and it is the middle of the ocean. It's open ocean. It's thousands and thousands of feet deep, and there's sharks around there, and there was a shark research station there for a long time. And you get dropped in there, and then you're expected to swim back, find your way back to San Francisco. And she did that. And the thing that is so amazing about her is not that particular feat, but that not that long before she that period of time where she was training for the swim, she almost lost her leg to amputation. So she only discovered swimming several years before because she was rehabbing her leg and she was learning to walk again. And so she had an accident where she fell down the stairs of her apartment in San Francisco, and she developed what's called leg compartment syndrome. And so that the pressure builds up in your leg such that if you don't relieve the pressure via surgery within enough time, then you will lose your limb. And so she was 30 minutes away from amputation in the hospital, and the doctors didn't know if they could save her leg. And they did, and she spent 2 years relearning how to walk. And in that period of time, she started swimming. And not because she was a big swimmer, but because when she was a kid in New Zealand, she remembered the feeling of being free in the water when she was visiting her grandparents, and going to the beach, and just feeling so trapped by her body's limitations that she started to swim, and she started to swim in a pool, and then she started to swim with the Dolphin Club in San Francisco Bay, and that just changed her life. And it turns out she's freakishly gifted at long distance swimming, and that was it healed her in a lot of ways.
You just mentioned the Dolphin Club, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but there's another club.
Southland Rowing Club, yes.
Yeah. Can you just explain to people what those are, people who don't live in San Francisco?
Sure. They are, let's see, I think that they were founded in the 1800s, and they're these very traditional, I guess they're rowing clubs, water clubs, where you would swim or take watercraft out, and there are a lot of Olympians on their rolls and over the years. And now it's just what it means today when you talk about South End or Dolphin Clubbers is that they are these, cold water swimming crazy, amazing people who that's their medicine, that's their tonic, right? So that they go out in the mornings or in the evenings, and they swim in the bay. And they, right now the clubs are closed, which is, I think pretty tough for a lot of people who that's sort of how they maintain their equilibrium in life, right? And again, like there are so many things that we've been taking for granted, and now with the situation with this virus, is that we realize that we are very blessed, and we're very lucky to have all of these things available to us. And so I think the hope is that we come out on the other side with a renewed appreciation for all that we have, with where we live and the access to that. And so, and for health and just like well-being, just to be able to, hug a friend without being scared that something, bad will come from that. And I think that's it's a pretty strange inversion of what we're used to. And so I think that's what's been so upending about this whole coronavirus crisis.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. We did a written interview about other disciplines that inspire you to create. And you said that you like to listen to music while you're writing. Can you just talk a little bit about what kinds of things you like to listen to?
Sure. I mean, especially when I'm writing something that really demands a lot of focus, I can't have things with words. And so I make this writing playlist, and I like to listen to things on loop. And it just kind of I think it's probably akin to swimming laps, over and over again. You just really get into this state of flow, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit later in this conversation, but that it is meditative. And so it pulls you into a place where you can just the thoughts keep coming, and they come sometimes unbidden in the best way.
Mm-hmm. Great. You know what? I just realized that we were supposed to start with a giveaway. Thank you. Bonnie has some beautiful art that she's going to be giving away, so I'll let her talk about how we're going to do that.
Well, I thought since we couldn't actually all be together and talking and breaking bread, that I would, a friend of mine told me about a British designer friend of hers named Alexandra Brown, and she makes these beautiful decorative tiles that depict swimmers, and she made a special set for the book. And so I thought I would do a giveaway for this tile. I guess what we could do is that if anyone is interested in entering the giveaway, just to tweet at us at Alta Magazine, or me or Heather online, and we will see who enters, and then we will pick a winner. So this could be yours. Beautiful, isn't it?
I love it. So why don't we have you read a selection from Why We Swim?
So I'm going to read from the end section of the book that's called Flow. And flow is really about, not just that meditative state that I was talking about, where you're so immersed in activity that you just kind of, everything else falls away and you just kind of do it on autopilot. And it's so enjoyable that you lose sense of time. But also in this like more physical sense of swimming, like you could swim and enter this automatic state that also is, it's a mind and body experience in the way that I talk about in the book. And there's so many different ways to explore that as well. So I'm going to start here. When it comes to swimming, we can understand flow to mean not just the expansive, timeless state of being that psychologists define, but also the flood of thoughts that swimming enables and the connection we have to each other and to the planet we inhabit. Flow, from Old English floen, from the same root floar, Old Norse floa, to flood, and Dutch, to flow. The word holds other secrets too. Latin, plorare, which means to weep. Sanskrit, plu, which means to swim or bathe. Old High German, fluen, to rinse. Greek, fluvil, to swim, float. I followed the downstream movement of language, and it offers up a raft of connections. Flood, weep, swim, bathe, rinse, float. Trace this lineage and it reveals an unfettering, an unburdening, whether physical, a release of the body to water, freed from its customary weight and gravity, or emotional, through a good cry, the cleansing release of tears. In the sea, a tidal flood of water traveling from thousands of miles away can absorb a small individual burst of a dam. Elation may be essential to the flow state, but so too is a slice of sorrow embedded in the very history of the word itself. Even in grief, the breakup of my parents, a miscarriage, the death of a friend, I have marked time by water. I won't linger on these sorrows because I don't mean to say that swimming cured me of them, but I will say that swimming, in all of its permutations, in a pool, in a lake, paddling a surfboard out to sea, has always helped me come out on the other side of a difficult time. The tides keep changing twice a day. Water is in a forever state of flux. To swim is to witness metamorphosis in our environment, in ourselves. To swim is to accept all the myriad conditions of life.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. I just want to thank you for this book and for putting your words out into the world. As I was rereading over the last couple of days, I was really just moved by the physicality of your description of swimming, and also it just made me feel this sense that when we're in the water, we're connected to so many people throughout history and to our biology. And I live in Northern California too, so the landscape in Northern California that you wrote about, it's just wonderful, and I can't recommend it enough. So to anybody who's out there who's looking for a good pandemic read, Why We Swim is wonderful. And we're gonna go to Beth right now because she might have some questions for us. So hi, Beth.
Hi guys. I actually, I don't have questions. I only have lots and lots of compliments.
We'll take them.
Yeah, tons of compliments for both of you. So I want to thank you both so much. Author Bonnie Tsui, moderator Heather Scott Partington. For those of you who tuned in late, don't worry, we will publish this interview in its entirety at altaonline.com. Thank you to everyone who joined us. If you have feedback, if you've thought of a question and you want us to get it to Bonnie or Heather later, or you have requests of other people you'd like to see at Alta Asks Live, email letters at altaonline.com with feedback. The next Alta Asks Live will feature author, San Francisco Chronicle columnist, and Alta contributor, Vanessa Hua, on Monday, 12:30 Pacific time. And again, tweet us at Alta Journal or tweet Bonnie or Heather if you want a chance to win those gorgeous custom tiles. So thanks to everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next week, same time, same place. Take care.
Okay, and I've